digital ID. That can't happen here. We're not China. I beg to differ. Australia is little China, but besides that, just look at what's going on. So before people say, oh, you're just being a worrywart, you're being a conspiracy theorist. If you study history and if you look around the world at other people's cultures and what they've had to deal with over the last few decades, it is not that hard to predict and it's not that hard to theorize or speculate or see the writing on the wall and any number of cliches you want to add here to make yourself sound more learned. I kind of held off on making this because I did see a pile of articles come out of New South Wales, which is a state in Australia, and it was regarding them shifting the driver's licenses onto a digital version that you can keep on your phone. So straight off the bat, you guys know that if you see that and they say, oh, it's a trial, there's going to be a rollout. So I wanted to hold off on actually doing anything about it and speaking about it because I did not doubt that there would be another video coming in the next few days, weeks, even months that says, oh, actually, it's the start of a rollout. They don't care about the result that, it's a trial. No, it's not. It's just a trial for you to test that it works. It's not a trial to see how people receive it. It's going to be crammed down their throat whether they like it or not. And I'm not sure about this one, but things like the internet censorship bills that were coming through, there was an actual forum and there was an actual petition online, and if you could submit whether you thought it was a good idea or not, and these things happen all the time, and they have them, and you submit stuff and you work your butt off trying to submit something that means something, and they just go ahead anyway. So again, I don't know if it happened with this, and so it doesn't matter. But what's happening is that driver's licenses are now getting digitalized or digitized. And once again, they shop it around as it's convenient, it's in your pocket, you're not going to lose it. If you don't have it on you, you can just log into whatever. But what they don't actually mention, besides saying, oh, we take privacy very seriously, is how. How do you keep that privacy at the top and the forefront of your priorities? Because let's face it, hackers get into everything, and there is a definite push in Australia to combine all your important ID points into a digital ID. There's even a thing here called digital ID, which I'll get onto, in addition to MyGov, which MyGov is a sort of a hub where you have a phone number and your email address, both of which obviously can be targeted by spam callers or hacked or whatever. And you log in, and when you go onto MyGov, it's like I said, a hub. So it's got the tax office on there, it's got your dealings with, say, if you're on some kind of student payment or welfare-esque arrangement, it's got your medical records. So with our state healthcare system, Medicare, it has your claims history and that kind of stuff. It also has whether you're paying child support, whether you are part of DVA, which is like VA for you guys that might not know, so it's a Veterans Affairs thing. It's got all of your stuff that you might not want to share with anybody in one place, because that's the greatest idea. Yay, Australia. So for me, when I see the push to get your driver's license on your phone, I'm like, yeah, it's convenient, but it's also a great risk. And me personally, when they try and make something sound great through the fact that it's convenient, I'm very skeptical, and it's one of those things, safety over liberty kind of stuff. And for me, a great personal inconvenience, I've held off from a lot of different things like that. And there is a side of me that's like, well, everyone else is doing it. Just become a number like everybody else, and hopefully you'll be under the radar because everybody else is doing it. But no, I like to stick to my principles and what I believe and what I've seen, and I can see so far to that far wall down the end and the writing on it, and it just makes me hold off from being a part of all these things. One of the reasons I held off saying anything about it is because I was actually looking at the digital ID here as well, and the license and how it's all going to be connected, because it is. Everything's slowly getting tied together, and you can see that. You've got a number for this, you've got a number for that. Soon it's going to be, let's combine it all into one dossier and we'll just have files on everybody. And you saw them attempt that with this whole corona farce. They wanted your private medical history, your private medical data, to see whether you've taken a shot or not in order to travel the world. They excluded you from society, from going to a restaurant, from going to work, to going to the gym, because you were unclean. What they deemed not fit to be part of society. And that was based on not only their narrative, but you going ahead and undergoing a medical procedure to have a little box ticked off on your phone so that you could present it to the nobody faceless guy making $12 an hour at the door to go and get your fries. You were deemed unclean. You didn't even have to have the cold, the flu, whatever. You didn't have to have the Rona. You just had to not have signed up for their injection. And that was enough to make you ostracized basically from society. So if you had your own opinion or your own plan or went your own way, you weren't allowed to play the reindeer games. It had nothing to do whether or not you were suffering from the ailment or not. It's just that the government went, you're not going along with us, so yeah, we're just going to sweep you to the side here and make sure that you know you don't exist to us. That's where this is going. Be very sure before you sign up to these things. We need to slow this down as much as possible, in my opinion. Think about the Canadian truckers. Before that, it was things like shutting down Alex Jones and things like that, and not allowing PayPal to release money and GoFundMes and all that kind of stuff with various people. And then you saw it with the Canadian truckers who dared to have a different opinion and who did not violently protest. Like you see these Black Lives Matter, who, the people that use that to go and exercise delinquency, who use that and who use wishy-washy lefty talking points to go and destroy things. This wasn't like that. These were a bunch of people that were peacefully setting up shop, sitting there in their trucks and just doing a protest because they didn't like the measures that their government was putting on them. And they had the support of the community, people out there, selling things or bringing things to them and making them food and everything. And the government, Castro, did not like that and cut off their funds, cut off their money. Because why? How? They were digitally able to do that. And I'll just say I have it on good authority and leave it there, but I happened to be speaking to someone that worked for a department, a federal government agency, who was saying the idea is later on, and they were happy to talk about it because it wasn't for nefarious reasons to them. They thought it was a matter of convenience and helping the client. And they said eventually the plan is to combine these government agencies, so the tax office, like I was saying, the medical system, the welfare system, the child support, things like that, and combine it with a picture of you that's based on your driver's license or passport. So it's like an actual file on you, an actual dossier. So they have several tabs that take them to different aspects of you, your personality and your life. And that is all in the hands of whoever is working for any specific government agency on the day. Who knows who's working there? And furthermore, obviously, who knows who that data has been sold to, or who knows where it ends up when it's hacked. We're probably all on the dark web, right? Well, now it's going to get worse. I don't feel like convenience is the most important thing we should be looking at here. It is a centralized way to get hold of you and control your life and how you think. And if you step out of line, bam, you don't get to do this, you don't get to do that, you don't get to go see your friends, you don't get to go to a certain shop, you don't get to go to a bar. That is all coming. And with the Rona stuff, so that was kind of funny too, because obviously you couldn't go to certain parks, you couldn't go to certain restaurants, you weren't allowed to go to work, some people, you weren't allowed to go to the funerals of close members of family. Weddings all had to have a cap on how many people could be there and where they could sit and all kinds of crazy shit. Do you remember when they told you walking a certain way through a supermarket would save your life? These are not the people that should be in charge of your whole identity and in turn your whole life. Social credit is coming. Again, look at the Canadian truckers. That was the most blatant example. And you got Justin Castro up there just openly calling for it, not even being ashamed of what he's saying. And now trying to take it back. So just be aware of where your information is going and where it's being held. I don't think that if you ask the person at the counter what's going on, they're going to be able to even tell you. I've had similar. I remember when they started making our driver's licenses in my state go towards biometrics. Next time you take your photo, it'll have biometric markers and blah, blah, blah. And I get it. I get that's just a thing now. I understand. I know in some states in America, they have to give their blood. I know that people in Canada have to give their height and weight and whether they have blue or green eyes or anything. We don't have to do that here yet. I mean, soon it's not going to matter since all our medical stuff and everything's going to be combined, right? So I do understand that, but I remember when they pushed towards getting the biometric photos, and it was such a huge deal. Oh my God, it's so good, we're joining the 21st century. And I actually went down there and I'm like, can you explain this to me? Is this opt-in? What is this? And no one could help me. Nobody wants to. And everyone wants to turn a blind eye and look away because they're getting a paycheck. And that's what it's come down to, is like the Rona. They couldn't fight against it, most people, because they had to put food on the table. We've been beaten down into such submission that we have to go along to get along. And I will not do that. I don't care what it costs. There are a lot of things in this life that are worth fighting for. And I think this one, yes, I do think this is kind of going to be an uphill battle. I think eventually we're going to lose this one. I really do. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't try and slow it down. You know, as usual, like what people say with regards to this stuff, use paper where you can, use cash where you can, slow it down, because there are a lot of dumbasses that are just running headfirst into this. Don't want to be one of those people that's asking you to sub and like, but if you feel like commenting or liking, that would help me out. It'll give me the power to do more of these episodes.